Egypt is one of the most fascinating places for historians to visit. The region is characterized by its abundance of sand, graves, and secrets. The mysterious limestone monument that appears to have eyes gazing out of a face that is almost human is said to conceal a large number of secrets. When Joe Rogan learned these insights, he was captivated by the information. So what are these secrets that we are discussing? Let's find out more information about it, shall we? Chapter: What Rogan Actually Said. Joe Rogan has shared his thoughts on the ancient Egyptian civilization, as well as the possibility of a long-lost technology from a more evolved culture. The UFC commentator and analyst Joe Rogan invited Jimmy Corsetti and Ben Van Kerwick onto an edition of the Joe Rogan Experience to talk about the remarkable empire that the ancient Egyptians ruled and the engineering achievements that they were able to accomplish with the pyramids. Rogan had some words for the archaeologists who were attempting to provide a rational justification for their achievements. Well, they made use of pulleys and they dragged the logs behind them. What you're saying doesn't even make the slightest bit of sense, so just shut the fuck up already. It is much more likely that there was extremely advanced technology that existed, and it is much more likely, in light of the data presented by the younger Dryas Simpact hypothesis, that this technology was eradicated. Joe Rogan is of the opinion that Egyptian culture was far more advanced than human civilization ever was or ever will be. His other guests on the show jumped in as well, noting that the conventional theory that logs were used to move stones for the pyramids has never been verified, despite the fact that all of their assertions are based on speculation. And there is one more theory that you should look upon. Chapter: Pyramids and Their Coordinates. Imagine you are in the presence of a huge pyramid that soars up into the clouds high above you. You can't help but wonder how it was put together, not to mention how its distinctive form was conceived. When you get closer to the pyramid, you will observe that it has a polygonal base and triangular sides that all converge at a single point at the very top. This point is known as the apex. But there is more to this pyramid than first appears to be the case. This mysterious edifice conceals beneath its surface a convoluted system of coordinates, the revelation of which is the key to unlocking its mysteries. It is possible to determine the location of each vertex of the pyramid by using a set of 3 coordinates that define its position in a space that is 3-dimensional. These coordinates have the potential to reveal not only the specific location and orientation of the pyramid, but also its height, width, and depth. However, why are these coordinates considered to be so vital? It turns out that they can assist us in comprehending the structure of the pyramid as well as its primary function. We will be able to identify the precise angles and measures required to construct such a building, as well as the geometric concepts that served as the basis for its construction if we perform an analysis of the coordinates. Yet the coordinates of the pyramid are notoriously difficult to compute due to their complex nature. They necessitate an in-depth understanding of geometry and trigonometry, in addition to the utilization of sophisticated measurement tools and methods. But the payoffs can be extremely substantial for those who are able to rise to the challenge. The notion of being able to penetrate the mysteries that lie within one of the world's most enigmatic buildings is one that is sure to pique one's interest. As you stand in front of the pyramid, make sure to give its awe-inspiring beauty and intricacy the time and attention they deserve. But keep in mind that what you see is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this construction. The coordinates that are buried deep below its surface are just waiting to be found, and the information that they could provide could fundamentally alter how we understand this age-old marvel. Chapter: The Conspiracy Theory, an Alien Construction. According to this idea, the pyramids were not the result of construction operations that lasted for decades and involved tens of thousands of people, enormous logistical and administrative efforts, a nearly endless supply of stone, and expert architects and engineers. Instead, they were constructed by extraterrestrial beings, or at the very least, extraterrestrials taught humanity how to construct them. This is not the only ludicrous explanation proposed to explain how an ancient civilization was able to construct such magnificent monuments. One such theory is extraterrestrial meddling. The people of Atlantis have also been given credit for their contributions. Because so much about the pyramids, from how they were built to what is housed within them, is still a mystery to this day, it should come as no surprise that there are a lot of myths and conspiracy theories around them. The idea that they were constructed by slaves is a persistent urban legend that persists to this day. The Bible seems to imply that the Israelites were enslaved by the Egyptians, and ancient authors who traveled to Egypt documented that slaves must have been used in the Egyptian economy. According to Joyce Tydelsley, an Egyptologist at the University of Manchester, If you came from a civilization that employed slaves, like Greece or Rome, you're probably going to think that slaves built any large monument. Even while there was something that could be called forced labor, it is not accurate to think that slaves were whipped and dragged from other countries. They were Egyptians born in their own country, not prisoners. Is it possible that the moon landing was staged? Who exactly was the author of Shakespeare's works? And then, after the war, did Hitler make his way to South America? Aliens were a concept that emerged relatively recently, despite the fact that pyramids have been there for more than 4 millennia and have been a part of many different civilizations all over the world. After the publication of The War of the Worlds in 1897 by H.G. Wells, I would argue that it really began to evolve. Professor Tiddelsley says that this kicks off a series of science fiction books. Edison's Conquest of Mars was published in 1898 and was written by an American astronomer and author Garrett P. Serviss. This book claims that the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx are both Martian constructs. Because it's fiction, the book isn't meant to be taken seriously in any way, but this theory that someone from another world might have traveled to Egypt, erected the pyramids, and then left has gained traction. Chariots of the Gods, written by the Swiss novelist Erich von Däniken and published in 1968, became an instant bestseller. It was the television show Unsolved Mysteries of the Past that did much to popularize the theory that ancient astronauts visited Earth, were worshipped as gods, and greatly influenced the cultures, religions, technologies, and architecture of ancient civilizations. The show aired on the History Channel in the 1980s. There is a compelling argument that the belief in ancient aliens visiting Earth and imparting their superior knowledge stemmed, at least initially, from deep-rooted racism and prejudice against people from the past, a reluctance or refusal to believe that an ancient civilization from somewhere else in the world, like Africa, or in the case of the Mesoamerican pyramids, Central America, could actually construct such impressive monuments. This belief in ancient aliens visiting Earth and imparting their superior knowledge has been attributed. Any explanation, including those involving extraterrestrial beings, would be preferred or more convincing. According to Professor Tiddelsley, this does not appreciate the skills and abilities of the people of the past because we have sufficient evidence to show that these people could do this type of building. And he says this because we have sufficient evidence to show that these people could do this type of building. But I believe there's more to it than that. Previous to the thought that extraterrestrials assisted in the construction of the pyramids, we entertained the possibility that individuals from Atlantis provided assistance, and prior to that, we entertained the notion that God provided inspiration to the constructors. It's possible that the long line of hypotheses that have changed and developed over time is a consequence of the lifespan of the pyramids themselves. They are still standing, which continues to awe and perplex people. The fact that we didn't understand the Egyptian beliefs of death and the afterlife for a long time after the end of the dynastic age meant that we had to find explanations to try and understand why they were there. This meant that we had to find out why they were there before we could understand why they were there. Yet major progress in our knowledge of pyramid construction has only been made over the last 50 to 70 years. As a result, for a large amount of time, there was a void in which conspiracy theories were free to take root and flourish. Professor Tiddelsley believes that Egyptologists, archaeologists, and historians might do more to give the facts and a convincing alternative to the claim that ancient civilizations were visited by extraterrestrial beings. The construction of the pyramids encouraged not only building techniques, but it also encouraged the development of civil service in order to coordinate all of the workers, the development of boats in order to ship timber or stone, the development of medical skills in order to deal with accidents, and possibly increase the sense of community. I believe that the construction of the pyramids was vitally crucial in the process of establishing Egypt. Chapter: One more aspect. UFC commentator Joe Rogan expressed his amazement at the ability of ancient civilizations to construct architectural marvels such as the Great Pyramids on episode 1891 of his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. Rogan was perplexed as to how an ancient society could have acquired such vast knowledge in order to construct such complicated constructions as the Great Pyramid of Giza. You have to wonder what that society was like, what those cultures were like, in order to fully appreciate the Great Pyramids of Egypt as well as the other structures of Egypt. They are so amazing. When somebody says those items have been around for 5,000 years, what the fuck kind of intelligence did those individuals have? How could they have all that information? How was life for you when you were among them? There are 2.3 million individual stones that make up the Great Pyramid of Giza. The engineering behind it defies all rational explanation. Rogan went on to imply that perhaps human civilization was considerably more evolved in the past, and that an asteroid impact, similar to what the younger Dryas impact theory asserts, may have put humanity back hundreds of years. I believe that Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson came up with the concept. I believe that humans had attained an extremely high degree of sophistication when we were fucking flatlined once more by comet impacts. This is known as the impact theory of the younger Dryas, and it makes a whole lot of sense. Below is the complete podcast for your listening pleasure. When Graham Hancock shared his knowledge with Joe Rogan regarding technological enigmas from the past. In episode 1897 of JRE, the British author Graham Hancock highlighted that archaeologists were coming to a stalemate with many of the technical mysteries of the past, since they were completely different from the procedures that are used now. Hancock explained that the ancient Egyptians may have even lifted large constructions using sound-based technologies. The most important thing is that we are investigating technologies that are not the same as those that we use. This is one of the reasons that archaeologists are unable to notice them. They are scouring the history books for traces of us. Invariably, my thoughts return to the historical traditions of ancient Egypt, which describe priests reciting chants as enormous blocks were hoisted into the air. Were they manipulating matter with some kind of sound that they created? We are aware that sound can affect the properties of materials. Randall Carlson, who was Rogan's other guest for the episode, also chimed in, saying that a small group of people had been working covertly to rediscover these technologies for decades, and that they would make their discoveries open source in the near future. Carlson was Rogan's other guest for the episode. That's all for the video today. We will be right back with more. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.